You're listening to the Trailblazers podcast, where we will explore the stories of successful Black professionals. Join us as we highlight the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished trailblazers to help provide the know-how, confidence, and motivation you need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen Hart.
What's up, Trailblazers? Thank you so much for joining us on another episode. I'm so grateful that God has blessed me to find a way to continue to publish new episodes through what has been one of my busiest seasons this year. Many of you know that I work full-time as a marketer, and my job actually took me out to San Diego this month, where I found myself managing and executing a trade show exhibit at the 2016 Neuroscience Annual Meeting in front of some 30,000 people in the scientific community. It was a great week out on the West Coast. It was a terrific show. We ended up doubling our targeted goals. So it was definitely a successful campaign and event, despite having worked some 15 plus hours a day over the past couple weeks. So needless to say, I'm catching up on some much needed rest right now and time spent with the kids, right? But timing wise, I'm honestly very happy that this period kept me busy and kept my mind off the media and the results of this election and all that's happened since, right? Like many of you, it's been a very frustrating period for me, whenever I process what's likely ahead for our children, for our country, for the world. But, as a Christian man, I'm trying to remind myself that God is ultimately in control, and I'm trying to encourage myself to keep Donald Trump, keep this elected government to come in prayer. I do believe that despite their plans, God can do all things, and he can perform miracles through even a Trump administration, right? And I encourage those listening, who share my frustrations to join me. Put your thoughts and prayers for the next administration, for children, communities, and the country. Let's just pray that the years ahead will be brighter than even we might imagine today, right? So let's go ahead and move on, right? I've opted today to do a solo show. I haven't done one since, I think, episode 15. And, at the time of this recording, going live, we're days away from Thanksgiving of 2016 here in the United States. It's usually a time that allows us to reflect on all the many things that we're grateful for. And I think now more than any time in our past, it's a holiday that is it's so necessary, right? It seems that more and more noise and news enters and exits our minds daily. And even this week, the media, corporations would want your thoughts on football or Black Friday promotions and Cyber Monday and this Tuesday and that Wednesday and the other, right? But I want to get away from the material and the money and the noise for just a little while, right? So for a couple minutes, I'm going to share some of the events that have happened that really moved us all in 2016. And, I'm sure there are many more that I won't mention, but I wanted to share those that came to mind so we can spend this time throughout this week, throughout this season in a mode of reflection, right? And to start things off, I'd definitely say that 2016 was the year we survived. We made it past what was hopefully the worst of the Zika virus. Some survived the bombings. Some of you in Europe, you survived the bombings in Brussels. And those of you in the United States, there was a shooting in Orlando, Florida. And though we can each of us maybe can think of a handful of viral reports of people that were shot and killed by police, the Washington Post has a database right now that shows the total number of all people that were shot and killed by police in 2016 well beyond 800 people. And that's a very startling number, right? That something needs to be done about. Our friends in Haiti, Cuba, the Bahamas, and throughout the Southeast US got hit by a very strong Hurricane Matthew in October. More than 1,000 people in Haiti alone lost their lives in that storm. And in 2016, we witnessed the passing of trailblazers, iconic legends in Muhammad Ali and Prince. And of course, as a result of this election season, play themselves out, for many like myself, we look at the end of a run for an iconic trailblazer in Barack Obama. We should all be so very grateful for the job he has done for our country. I know many have voiced their frustrations at the job of the government over the past 8 years, but I, for one, look at where we came from at the beginning of this administration in 2009, and I'm especially happy that Mr. Obama has been able to get so much done in that time, and I hope to someday soon have him on this show, on this program, to share more of his journey with our listeners. So, on a lighter note, as a Jamaican-born migrant and someone who's been a U.S. citizen for the last 15 years, I'm especially proud of the outcome for both Jamaica and the United States at this summer's Olympic Games, right? Who couldn't be happier for athletes like Michael Phelps, Simone Manuel, Simone Biles, and of course, Usain Bolt, and so many other athletes that performed at this summer's Olympics. We all cheered them on, and we're also excited for what they were able to accomplish through their perseverance and, their push and their focus, right? And best of all, for me at least, and for our community, February 1st of 2016 was the day we saw the Trailblazers.fm podcast launch its programming. And as since that point, we've been downloaded in more than 74 countries across the globe, which is pretty exciting. We've also grown a social community now that's in the tens of thousands across Instagram and Twitter and, many other social platforms. With Facebook and LinkedIn. And we've been blessed to have heard stories, right, from more than 40-something successful professionals all over the country, a couple of them even in other parts of the world. And in the course of the year, guys, I learned to push myself. I learned, to get past the fears to be able to realize this dream of being a podcaster. There are so many fears of the unknown that had crippled me for years prior to this, that I was able to overcome this year, and with the help of God and with the help of you guys, all of you who have sent me emails and tweets and encouraging WhatsApp messages and Facebook posts, you kept me digging deeper and coming up with bigger and better things. You kept sharing, you kept growing with me, right? And for those of you who were guests of the podcast, who were kind enough, especially at the beginning, to be transparent with our listeners, you've been a blessing to me, and you've been a blessing to our community of so many people, from the Philippines to listeners in Nigeria, from Latvia to Brazil, from the United Kingdom to right down the street here in Washington, D.C. I learned so much, but I've learned that done was better than perfect. And I learned, to keep publishing through probably my biggest struggles with audio in this summer, where my recording software failed on several occasions due to Windows 10 updates. And I learned to push ahead. And guess what? You guys kept downloading even through those struggles. And, many of you have heard me talk about, these struggles candidly. And I'm so grateful that, this year I made this decision to just push ahead through all that came. I've learned from so much of my mistakes, so much of my failures along this path. And I learned quickly how to eliminate a ton of wasted time that was once spent watching TV and sports and idle, like me just idling on things that weren't really essential, right? I have a full-time job. I have 2 young kids, as many of you know, a wife, and now this podcast came about, and I had to really focus in on removing all the little obstacles that stood in the way so that I was able to execute consistently and be at this point today where we are celebrating 43 straight Monday mornings with an episode being published at 5 a.m. Eastern. That's a great accomplishment and one I couldn't do without you guys standing by my side. So that said, I want to challenge you today as we enter this holiday season, this Thanksgiving season. And it's going to be based on an amazing book that I've listened to twice in the past 3 weeks via an audiobook. It's titled Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And my challenge to you guys is to first read the book, or at least listen to the book via audio version. I've listened to it for free through an app accessible through the library. You guys may want to consider doing something similar. But read the book, listen to the book, then begin to look ahead at the rest of this year, 2017, with a shift in your mindset. I want you to shift from this undisciplined pursuit that we often have, trying to chase all sorts of things, right? Material things and accolades and job titles and, all these things that, we push for more, right? I want you to instead focus. I want you to look ahead with a focused pursuit, a disciplined pursuit of less, but better. Right? It's time to create more space to allow you to breathe and to think. I want you guys to really begin to celebrate the time that you're able to spend with the people that mean the most to you. It's time you really, begin to figure out what is most important and begin to make that your sole priority. For me, God, family, and, my pursuit of making others around me better are what push me. And I hope and I pray that the coming year will allow me to continue to push ahead towards less but better, right? I'm grateful to each and every one of you guys in our community. Listen, we're on track to see more than 20,000 downloads in 2016. And I feel incredibly blessed to have a part in so many of you listening and learning from this podcast and from the many guests that have been on. And I hope that you've grown from the content. And I encourage you guys to keep sending me tweets and messages and emails and, reaching out and telling me what you want more of in the coming year. I firmly believe that the success of this podcast is heavily dependent on the involvement of our entire community and each of you in it. As you continue to share this podcast with your colleagues at work and at school and at church and elsewhere, listen, our message matters, but our messenger matters even more, right? We need you. I need you guys. So, as we look into 2017, I feel very encouraged, right? I know that in light of what was, this downer of an election season, I know and I believe in my heart that the message of the Trailblazers.fm podcast is needed now more than ever before. We need to keep exploring and highlighting the stories of successful Black professionals, entrepreneurs, Black thought leaders, and corporate leaders. We need to keep this light shining on them, right? And we need to make a decision to get started today, right? I want, as you guys hear these stories, I want you to put them into action. What you hear these guests encouraging you to do week in and week out, right? Keep going, guys. Keep trying. Keep writing down your goals and your ideas. Task them out, right? Keep putting on your blinders. Keep pushing through the failures. Just make a decision today to take action, to get started. We've still got 40 days left in 2016 to make this year the best year you've ever had. Right? Let's give thanks for all the many, many blessings that we've had, and let's enjoy this holiday season with the people, again, who matter the most, right? Live it out, enjoy them, celebrate what you've been able to accomplish, right? But begin to look ahead with a fresh mindset and a disciplined approach to less but better. And so today I want to end this episode with a quote from the most recommended book this year, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it goes like this. Form the habit of persistence to go the extra mile. Have the courage to persist. With persistence comes success. Guys, thank you so very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Cheers. Well, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Trailblazers podcast. If today was your first time listening to the Trailblazers podcast, I just want to extend a warm Trailblazers welcome to you. We're so happy to have you here, and we encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button in your favorite podcast app. Go ahead and browse through some of our past episodes to keep the knowledge flowing. If you're a fan of the podcast and today's content, and you're maybe already subscribed to the podcast, please continue to share and invite your friends, your family, or colleagues to listen to an episode that you think might impact them most. We believe that someone listening to these inspiring stories will be moved to make significant changes that will have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are released each and every Monday by about 5 a.m. Eastern. Trailblazers, jump off this podcast today. Go find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail. Cheers.